Well, hello friends, neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here, and welcome to my kitchen table. I am going to share today some thoughts about this bourbon. It's called American Rockies, sourced by the Fontanes Group, but rumor has it it's from Wyoming Whiskey, which you may know I'm a fan. I want to give you a heads up though, haven't tried it yet. I'm going to open it, and also during the show today, I am going to reflect a little bit, probably share a few stories of a great man, my Uncle Peter. My Uncle Peter passed away this week, and so part of this episode will be a couple of thoughts about his life, and we're going to talk about this bottle, American Rockies. Catch you after the break.
3, 4.
Well, thanks for staying with me through the break there. As I said in the opener, we're going to take a look at this sourced whiskey. Fair number of sites have confirmed or suggest, confirmed is too strong a word, that this is from Wyoming Whiskey, which is an up-and-coming distillery that I've had a pleasure of enjoying a few tastes of. And I'm going to think or reflect or share a little bit about my Uncle Peter. Now, right off the top, in case some family is watching, or Uncle Peter's family, Uncle Peter was not one that I know of to enjoy whiskey. He may have. His personality certainly would align with that. But I cannot recall sitting down with him and sharing a drink. In fact, I would say Uncle Peter really did a lot of excellent work with young people that might be struggling with addiction, alcohol, drug, or otherwise. And I would say that's what he was known for, helping people step away from addiction. All right, well, we'll start probably with a few thoughts of whiskey, because it's a whiskey channel, and likely that's why you tuned in. As I said in the opener, this bottle, sourced by the Fontanes Group, they also have a Canadian Rockies 17 and 21 year release. And then they have this, American Rockies. Now this, as I said, sourced from Wyoming. Well, I don't have confirmation of that, but likely sourced from Wyoming. Released at 44%, and I don't know, because it's sourced, what the mash bill is. See what the whiskey tells us. It's actually pretty relaxed. We got lots of sweet corn going on here. A little bit of oak comes up pretty quick. Caramel kind of cooked down, a little buttery. Interesting. I chose a bourbon to think and reflect a little bit about my Uncle Peter because he, in my mind, when I think of my Uncle Peter, I see him on the ranch. He was a horseman. I heard stories at his celebration of life or funeral recently about how even as a very young boy, 5 years old, he would stand on a bucket or on a fence post, get on a horse, and take care of the cattle or whatever needed to be done. And that continued throughout his whole life. Even older, he was older when I knew him. He was a fair amount older than my mom. He was a horseman, absolutely. And so when I was thinking of what I might crack and open, talk to you guys and think about my Uncle Peter, bourbon came to mind pretty quick. This one is on the sweeter side, I would say. It's not overpowering with oak and not with deep red fruits. It's more kind of a light fruit, a little bit of light apple, raisin. Yeah, okay, I could get some raisin in there. Yeah, nose is good. There, a little more spice came out, a little more cinnamon. I want a little more kick in the bourbon. Yeah, Uncle Peter spent many years, he's a Canadian through and through, though I should say he was born in Ukraine, and then they emigrated to Canada, and they were moving across the prairies. I think they were headed toward BC, but my grandparents would have stopped and stayed in the kind of the Coldell, South Alberta area, and ended up being farmers there. So I think a bourbon, a Wyoming bourbon, is a pretty fair choice to think about a great man. And he always wore a hat when he was on the farm, not when he was older, but certainly when I met him, and the book written about him has him with his iconic hat. So I thought I'd get out the hat that I wear when I go camping when I'm thinking about him. So I hope you have something nice in your glass. I hope in keeping with this that maybe it's a bourbon. See how this one tastes. Cheers. It's a nice pellet. A little more gentle than I was expecting. Good oak comes up. A little bit of spice, pepper, wood spice. But the caramels are lighter, sweeter, more like toffees, a little less cooked, more sweet candy. And a little bit of more of that kind of dried fruit, a little bit of leathered fruits in there. Let's give it another taste. That is a nice sipping bourbon. By that is it's got that dried red fruits, caramels, but it's cooked and buttery. It's got oak, which is good. Little bit of char, not too much char. Tastes a little young. I have no idea what the age stamp is on this, but well, except it's pretty gentle in the mouth, and sometimes young gets a little more astringency and that kind of thing, and I'm not getting any astringency in this bottle. I wish I knew more about it. Perhaps someone can put in the comments if you know a little more anything about the mash bill or how old it is or anything like that. But yeah, nice ripe fruit, good char oak. A little bit of spicing, not overpowering, but there is even a little bit of cracked pepper mixed in with the cinnamon. And a good amount of toffee caramel going on. This is nice. This would be a nice relaxing bourbon, I would suggest, right? Something to sip on. You could throw an ice cube in here. I wouldn't run to water at 44%, and the way it's tasting right now, it's not overpowering. It's even getting better. Now that's all first thought. Certainly I won't rate it. I'll come back and rate it and talk more about it once I've spent a little bit of time with it. But we just celebrated Uncle Peter's life yesterday, and I knew that I wanted to, shoot a whiskey anyways, and I thought, well, why not share a couple of memories? For me, Uncle Peter was always that fellow who would go first into a place that needed care. The stories of him going in and helping people in the Wyoming ranches or off ranch that were struggling, as I said at the beginning, with addiction. He was always someone to go where care needed to be, even in the rough or the hard places of life. Uncle Peter was a man who would walk into it, and was for me a person whose faith was part of who he was. He knew God's goodness, and he talked about that often, and he talked about it in a way that it was part of life. It wasn't a theory. It wasn't philosophical. He was a man who certainly knew some hardship, and he knew the difference that God could make in someone's life. So, thank you for joining me for this opening of this American Rockies bourbon, likely from Wyoming Distillery. It's good stuff. And thank you for allowing me to share a few thoughts from a man who affected me greatly, who I love, who I will miss. But Lord willing, one day I will certainly see him in heaven. Cheers, and a toast to Uncle Peter.